This ain't your daddy's self-help video. Yeah, I'm not one of those guys who wakes up at the witching hour every day to do push-ups on his balcony and then dunk his face in an ice bath. I'm certainly not going to tell you to do those things. In fact, if you can't already tell from my haircut or lack thereof, I only found out last year that you can make your bed before sleeping in it every single day. Always. Forever. No, but seriously, it's like I was sleeping with the Gordian knot every night, okay? It was annoying. But yeah, I'm not someone who believes that there's some normatively correct way to live. In fact, I think all of these mentors and gurus and what have you are really kind of telling on their own lack of control over their environment when they tell people to do X, Y, and Z to have a perfect life and whatever. So no, I'm not going to tell you to do anything in this video. That being said, and I don't mean to get too into employing the phraseology of one of our wisest political commentators, Jaden Sire Smith, the political economic state of the world, but we've done a bang-up job of making a society that I think makes people ambiently miserable, and it really comes down to consumerism. Even stuff that's supposed to be fun, like video games, those are all just prepackaged narratives for you to consume rather than create. I'm hopeful that the practice I'm about to share with you can kind of bring some creative autonomy into your life. I like to think of it as a slow IV drip of creative joy. It's like microdosing creativity. If you're enjoying the video so far, my name is Luke Exuberance, the public universal bandmate, which means if you're watching this, you're in my band. And that's actually a perfect segue into what I wanted to talk about today, which is coming up with fake band names and writing them down on your frickin' phone. Yeah, like I said, we're all kind of missing some creativity in our lives, and I think being on the lookout for band names is kind of like giving yourself a quest to search for the smallest possible phrase or term or word that sounds good. And in my experience, just by pointing them out in my mind, I kind of feel like I ground myself a little bit and like I said, get some of that creative satisfaction. And I figured since this is my band now, I actually don't have use for the names I've created over the years. So even though you're in my band, I don't know what kind of side projects you have. Maybe you just started a band and you need a name for it. In which case, feel free to take one of these. Just make sure no one else got to it before you. You don't even have to give me credit, by the way. I'll even tell you how I came up with them so that way you don't get ambushed by Nardwuar when you make it big and he asks you, "How did you come up with your band name?" Doot-doodle-doot-doot. Who am I kidding? Nardwuar would know you got it from me, but I digress. And hopefully by sharing these band names, I can give you a template of what you're on the lookout for when making your own. Also, if you're like me and you're a music head, and you've already been doing this as a little bit of a background hobby for however many years now, I'd love to hear some of your band names down below. I just think they're funny. But yeah, without further ado, let's get into some of these. So the first one, Homesick. This one's kind of clever. I gotta pat myself on the back for this one. It's like homesick, the compound word, but it's actually just home, spelled wrong, and therefore it merits that Latin adverb sic erat scriptum, which means thus it was written, or something along those lines. I don't know exactly how it's translated. I could easily see this being like a Boy Genius or like sleepy bedroom pop kind of band. I could also see it being like something experimental though, with kind of how almost abstract the name is. Food Mayhem. Okay, this one's totally just an offhand comment that I heard somewhere. Someone was like talking about how they went on a food mayhem last night and ate a bunch of like Burger King and stuff, and I just thought that was funny as a guy who occasionally gets stony baloneyed and does that. But yeah, I think it'd be a great like cheek face style geek rock band name. So if that describes your band, go ahead and take this one. All right. Saxon Hall. I don't know where I got this one. It was either like a little known textbook publisher or it was a building in one of those fake strategy games that you get advertisements for on like Duolingo and stuff. Come to think of it, it's probably that latter one considering how specific that is. But yeah, Saxon Hall. That one just, sounds nice. I think that's kind of what you should be looking for in a band name. Oh, this next one's a banger. Knave Girls. Okay, so in Middle English, that is the English of Chaucer and Beowulf and stuff, the word girl actually referred to a child of either sex. And differentiation was mediated by an auxiliary word. So what we know of as boys today were actually referred to as knave girls, and what we know of as girls today were called gay girls. So yeah, there's another name for a queer liberationist riot girl band. Although it is a little on the nose, if I may say so. Don't take my word for it. I'm a straight guy. But I would almost rather go with knave girls and bank on the audience not knowing the fact that I just told you if I were forming that kind of band. Let's see, what have we got next? Shag Harmony. Shagadelic, baby, yeah! Okay, sorry, that was 2 Austin Powers references this video. They're going to send me back to 1997 like they did with him. No, but seriously, Shag Harmony, this one's pretty obvious. It's just a poetic way of describing sex noises. I think this one works better if you're like a really English band. Like if you sound like the Rakes or the Futureheads or something, you should call yourself Shag Harmony. Shag Harmony. Oh, I'm from Shag Harmony. I pluck the bass in Shag Harmony. School Pizza. This one's kind of another Food Mayhem style name. I would probably also christen a geek rock band with this name, but maybe more in the vein of like Bowling for Soup. But maybe I just think that because it's a food name like Bowling for Soup is. Script Foo. I like this one. I think this one's actually a plug-in from GIMP. No, not that GIMP. That GIMP. Yeah, shout out to GIMP for making a great free product. People kind of roast it for being the poor man's Photoshop, but as someone who learned on GIMP originally and then moved on to Photoshop, I still prefer GIMP because I just know what's going on in there. Anyway, Script Foo is a plugin. I don't know if I've ever used it, honestly, but it sounded kind of like martial arts for a programmer or something. I thought it would be a good band name. Family Atomics. This one's kind of oblique, which I like. It could be a play on the nuclear family, but actually, I got it from the Dune books. The family atomics are all the nuclear weapons that the noble houses in the galaxy own, and they pass them on to their heirs. Flight Tray. This one's another banger. For some reason, I can't imagine anything other than the cover of that Supertramp album, probably because it's the window of an airplane on that cover. Yeah, something about Flight Tray feels very Art Deco. It feels very New York City to me. I think Breakfast in America actually is a very kind of fitting sort of vibe for what I imagine Flight Tray would sound like. And yeah, a flight tray, that's just that little wooden tray that the wines come on if you're at like a wine tasting or something. Next one, we've got Seder Square. This one has a cool little like alliterative quality to it. That's something I always appreciate in bands. I like Modest Mouse. I like Franz Ferdinand. I like other bands with alliterative names that I can't think of off the top of my head right now. But yeah, Seder Square. This is kind of just one of those things that I found while Wikipedia diving one day. Apparently, it's this Latin acrostic poem with like omnidirectional palindromes, although I might be wrong about that. But in any event, it was invented during the Roman Empire and kind of persisted into the Middle Ages as a magical charm. It was used for protection wards and stuff like that. I think I read that they employed it to cure rabies, which I'd like to see the success rate on that. But yeah, Seder Square. Oh, also, I've had this one for a long time too. I remember when the movie Tenet came out, the Christopher Nolan movie, I felt like such a little genius for knowing the Seder Square that the word Tenet came from. It's the middle word of that poem. I also got some stage names. Stage names are another fun one to come up with. In my experience, stage names are kind of rarer than band names. Band names kind of seem to come out the woodwork once you start making a habit of spotting them and saving them in your notes app. But a stage name is hard to come by. So I got a couple here if you're a Sid Vicious style individual who needs a stage name and you haven't murdered anyone yet. Mort Rattle. This one is just like a death rattle, but mort is the French word for death. I majored in French. What can I say? But yeah, I thought it'd be a great little pun on like the word death rattle. It seems very punk rock, I suppose. Another very punk rock one is Auto Sabotage. This one is also kind of like maybe a bit of a Latinate pun, you know, auto meaning something you do to yourself. So I was kind of thinking self-sabotage, auto-sabotage, but the name Auto, like of, I think, German origin. I don't know. Who was the first Auto? I've also got a couple names for skate punk bands. Mall Grab, I think that's like an obvious one. If you're a skater, you know what a mall grab is. And Groin Vault. A groin vault has nothing to do with skating, but it sounds like a skate injury. It sounds like something someone would call popcorning yourself. In reality, a groin vault is an architectural term. It refers to two intersecting arches who are crossing paths perpendicular. If you've ever seen like the series of like cornered kind of domes in a cathedral or something, that's what a groin vault is. Sometimes band names kind of just come to you from divine inspiration, like Moneyplex. I have no idea what a Moneyplex is. Can't explain it to you. It just sounds nice. Like I said, a good band name should just sound nice. Finally, sometimes it's just like a normal ass phrase, like Horn of Plenty. I only recently read the phrase Horn of Plenty in a book. I had no idea that a cornucopia could be called anything other than a cornucopia. But if you think about the word cornucopia and its like Latin etymology, you do get Horn of Plenty. So it's a copious corn. But yeah. So yeah, those are some of my favorite band names I've collected over the years. I hope you enjoyed them as much as I enjoyed making them. If I just helped you name your band, you're welcome. And hey, if you enjoyed this video, I'd really appreciate if you stayed with the band by leaving a like, subscribing. Like I said, if you've came up with a band name yourself in the past that you want to share, I'd love to see that down below in the comments. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. By the way, my last video went crazy on here. I uploaded that thinking that I was going to get like 12 views, but now it's almost at 1,000. It might even be more than 1,000 right now. So thank you so much. And yeah, next video, we're actually making music finally. No more of this stringing my guitars while I just talk about bullshit. So like I said, if you want to stick around for that, again, please subscribe and I'll see you next time. Peace.